So hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Janine Darby, the Montgomery County Coroner. I am a proud ally. But before we start this panel discussion, I would like to take a moment of silence to remember the 49 people who were taken from this world unnecessarily at the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, Florida. So let's take a moment of silence. Thank you. So welcome to our Pride Month panel. It's awesome to see so many of you here today. I don't know how many participants. Oh, they're coming on. So welcome. And we're ready to celebrate, learn, and share in the spirit of pride. This year, our theme is the same as the New York City Pride, reflect, empower, and unite. Pride Month is about coming together as a community to honor the progress we've made, recognize the challenges we still face, and celebrate the amazing diversity that makes us who we are. This year's theme really captures all of this. So reflect, it's a chance to look back at the journey of the LGBTQ plus community and to remember the struggles and victories of those who came before us. Reflecting helps us appreciate how far we've come and reminds us of all the ongoing fight for equality and justice. Empower. Pride is about lifting each other up and finding strength in our community. Empowerment is about giving everyone the courage and support to be their true selves without fear or shame. Unite. In the end, pride is about coming together. It's about standing in solidarity, celebrating our differences, and knowing that we're stronger together. Today, we've got an amazing lineup of panelists who will share their personal journeys, insights, and perspectives. We'll hear about the highs and lows, the joys and the challenges, and most importantly, the spirit that keeps us moving forward. As we listen to the panelists, think about your own story and how it connects with those around you. How can we support each other better? How can we make sure everyone's voice is heard? And how can we keep building a world where everyone feels seen, respected, and valued? So Pride Month isn't just a celebration, it's a call to action. It reminds us that while we've come a long way, there's still work to be done. So let's dive into these conversations with open hearts, open minds, ready to learn, grow, and to make a difference. So thank you all for being here for this panel discussion and conversation. And let's get started with our panel and celebrate our theme of reflect, empower, and unite. So each one of you, let's introduce yourselves, starting with Lori, who's our Montgomery County Clerk of Courts, and then tell us also why Pride Month is important to you. So Lori, you want to kick us off here with the introduction?
Thank you, Dr. Darby. That was a wonderful introduction. I really appreciate it very much. It really was very comprehensive of what we're going to try to do today. So yeah, my name is Lori Schreiber. I'm the Clerk of Courts in Montgomery County, first elected in 2019. When I was first elected, I was one of two countywide row officers that was openly LGBTQ to be elected. And when I was first elected as an Abington Township Commissioner in 2005, I was the first person elected in Montgomery County that was openly LGBTQ. So little bit of history here that I can go back to. As you said, we're going to share some things. As far as why is Pride Month important to me? I think not only honoring history, and there is a lot of history that personally, but also just across the board that everybody could, from, Stonewall on, or all kinds of things that we can all talk about. So I think it's honoring the history, but more importantly, I think it's to be visible, and for me to be visible for people who cannot be visible. So recently, I and other people who have spoken at events have gotten some hate emails, phone calls, other things. And it just reminds me, like, every time I get something like that, now I'm going to go to 2 events instead of 1. Like, I'm just out there more because I know not everybody can do that. So.
Thank you. Morgan or Mo? I'm utilizing your name at the bottom here.
You can say either. Totally fine. Hi, I'm Morgan Selkirk. I also go by Mo. My pronouns are she and her. I'm the Chief of Staff for State Representative Ben Sanchez in the 153rd Legislative District of Pennsylvania. I'm also an LGBTQ activist and been so for over 20 years. We won't go with numbers. And what Pride Month means to me, like Lori said, visibility and representation, but it's also beyond the rainbows and the merchandise. It's about our right to exist and to celebrate while honoring at the same time.
Thank you. And Tom?
Hi, my name is Tom Wines. I'm the Executive Director of Fraternal Order of Police Lodge 92 Labor Services. I represent approximately 1,900 state employees. I've been working in law enforcement going into my 18th year. As far as I can tell, I'm the only openly gay police union president in the United States. If someone knows of another one, please point them out to me. I'd love to meet them and compare notes. I've worked in law enforcement for 18 years. I've also been out my entire career, which has been a little bit of a challenge along the way. And my idea of pride is I'm a big history buff, so I'm always a big, my idea of life is you got to know where you've been to know where you're going. So when I think about pride, I think about the pride of where we've been, even in my lifetime. Hearing kids coming out in high school was unheard of in my day. So to hear that kids can do that, albeit with some challenges still, that's what pride means to me.
Great. Thank you. Thank you all for introducing yourselves and sharing. So let's kick off with the first question here. We're going to just reflect. So how do you think the history of the LGBTQ plus movement has influenced your personal experiences and activism and where you are today?
I can kind of tackle that one. The LGBTQ movement started as a result of a police raid on a gay bar in New York City. I mean, it happened before that, but when you think about LGBTQ history, you think about Stonewall, and it resulted in police action in a gay bar. To now think that we have openly gay police officers in our police forces, police in and of itself really haven't had a good history with minority communities across the board. So to have representation in police departments and law enforcement organizations, like that history is solid, and we still have a very long way to go. But that history of where we've been and where we're going to is solid, and you have to build upon that. As they say, what our ancestors went through is what we live by. You always shoot for a better life for your children. And I think of the same thing for the gay community as a whole, like build something forward for them by us, stepping forward and stepping up.
Thank you for sharing that.
I wanted to say, as far as history goes, in addition to Stonewall, unfortunately, some of the things that we think of historically are negative things, but positive things often came out of them. So, HIV, everything that happened in that time period, Matthew Shepard, the Pulse nightclub shooting that you mentioned earlier today, all of those things were very tragic, but out of it came more pride and more legislative changes and changes in people that were positives. So, our history, although some of it was very sad, also brought some good things. Just want to mention that.
I think it's also important to mention the fact that it was, I think, a little over 15 years ago, maybe, where homosexuality was decriminalized in America, and it was done state by state. So you're talking about history that can really be considered recent history, where people were allowed to be visible because they weren't going to be arrested for being so. So I think, I think all of the Stonewall riots, the decriminalization of homosexuality, the HIV and AIDS epidemic, all of these individual huge moments in our history all lead to how people live their lives and go about what they do today.
And I just want to I guess, expound on what you have shared a little bit. So with these historic moments, how has that been, or can you share like a pivotal moment in your life that significantly shaped your journey within the LGBTQ plus community? I know some of you have shared a little bit, being more proud and out loud as well. But, is there any more to add to that?
I remember when I left high school, it was 4 years after high school, I heard that my high school started a gay-straight alliance. And that blew my mind. And I was very prideful in hearing that come from my high school. I never thought, in my lifetime that would be something that would happen, in 4 years time. So little steps like that were very significant for me, coming out and being gay. Just hearing that things have changed from my experience, and it was only in 4 years time. And also with marriage equality, I never thought that would ever happen in my lifetime. And we're looking at what, 2015, I always slaughter the name. Thank you, Laurie. Thank you. And and I never thought that would ever happen. And so these monumental changes, even the small changes along the way, have had like a very positive impact on my life. As little and minute as they were to me, or in the history of things, like they end up being like big things to see how much things have changed in just a short period of time.
Thank you, Tom. Lori or Mo?
I was just thinking, I know this is getting into a later question, but some of the things was gay characters on TV, like when Ellen first came out, or Will and Grace is a TV show, or I think Golden Girls, one of the characters' daughter or somebody was gay, and just to like it started to be a little bit more mainstream, and I remember thinking that felt so like, oh yeah, now we see people like us on TV, and it was kind of comforting. So historically, the mass media is important, I think.
Great. Well, do you have anything to add?
I feel like, so, okay, I'm gonna sound negative. I don't mean to sound negative. I feel like I am constantly finding reasons to pull from. And part of that is I live very much out of a stereotype from visibility standpoint. So I would say on a daily basis, I have to decide whether or not I'm going to come out to the people around me if they don't know me. So I feel like I don't have, I also grew up, I guess I grew up very privileged in the fact that I grew up in an area that, you know, no one cared what I was or who I was with, or, you know, so it was not, I didn't have that aha moment. I just kept going with my life. And I've always been the kind of person that, you know, if I see something going wrong, I'm going to speak up. But I don't feel like I had an aha moment. And I feel like I'm constantly having to defend myself and my loved ones, if that makes any sense. So, and there's still far more to go. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and thank you for sharing, like, you know, your background and everything. And you know, not every LGBTQ plus individuals are created equal, right? So everyone is part of, you know, different groups or subcultures, and things like that. So can you comment on these various group memberships or things that are interconnected, you know, and then at times, you know, it could be disjointed or unaccepting to be a part of different organizations or different groups, or, you know, being a woman and gay, or, you know, can you comment on that, the intersectionality of, you know, whatever organization or I guess ethnicities or anything that you belong to? I guess your identity.
I mean, I could speak to that. I mean, I work in a very heteronormative, testosterone-driven industry. I mean, that's law enforcement, and to be a gay man and work in that environment, I personally have not, you know, really had anyone be nasty to me other than someone I'm putting handcuffs on, obviously. But like coworkers and so on and so forth. I've never really felt like I ever had to come out. I've always been out, and I've always assumed that everyone knew, which is kind of a joke amongst my friends. Like I just assume everyone knows, and kind of live my life like that. Um, but I mean, if you look like the sociological aspect of working in law enforcement, it itself is a subculture, and then to be, you know, a part of a minority group like the LGBT community and be in that subculture, it's a bit of a challenge, especially being a part of a subculture that doesn't necessarily have the greatest history working with minority groups. Um, you know, my perspective is kind of get them from the inside out, like let them see, you know, what we're all about by being a part of an organization that doesn't necessarily look at the gay community in the best light. And I've been able to, at least with my own agency, been able to kind of shed light on that and show that, you know, we are people, we do have feelings, we do have families. You know, we're not all that different from you if you really look at us, you know, with open eyes. Um, I don't really know what else to add to that. I'm sorry.
No worries. Yeah. So, Lori and Mo, if you want to share how we can better support or navigate that intersectionality of your identity, in the community.
I think it's important to say that, you know, LGBTQ quote unquote subculture is it's not monolithic. There are intersectionalities all over the place. You know, we cross over with other marginalized groups of people. We cross over with different ethnicity, gender, identity, socioeconomic status. I mean, we're all over the place. So there can be a wide range of intersectionalities that really create our experience. And there is not one person that can say that they have the ultimate experience, because every single person is different. And while I could go on about how I'm a, you know, Jewish LGBTQ plus woman with Spanish heritage, I can also know and note my privilege of the way I live my life and the way my spouse gets to live their life, and know that there are communities that, while our diversity can unify us, it can also divide us. There are a lot of marginalized communities that come from backgrounds that are not accepting of their LGBTQ plus portion of their identity. And it's something that they have to consider when they're presenting themselves to any part of their world. I personally feel very comfortable when I'm in a space, typically, but I'm not the only one out there. So I think, you know, that's something that we just need to remember, that everything that unifies us can divide us, but if we want support, that we have an incredible community that pulls together when it's asked to.
If I could, I just want to touch on one other thing that Mo kind of brought up. I've heard a lot, like, you don't look gay or you don't act gay. And my response always is, well, what does a gay person look like? What does a gay person act like? Because I've met, you know, a broad spectrum of people across the board within the gay community that don't fit those normative stereotypes. So, you know, that's the one thing I get is, you don't look gay, you don't act gay. Well, what is a gay person supposed to act like? What is a gay person supposed to look like? Or my favorite is, you don't dress like a gay man. Well, I can't dress myself to save my life. That is a stereotype, 100% a stereotype. And I get those sorts of things, and I take that opportunity to educate. You know what I mean? When people bring things up like that are just 100% stereotypical, I don't get offended. I use that as my opportunity to educate that person that, you know, we're far beyond the stereotypes that you have in your mind.
And like you said, you know, it's stereotypes, right? And the assumptions, you know, whether you are part of the LGBTQ community, whether it's race, whether it's religion, you know, there's always some type of stereotype. Yeah, so I totally agree with that, Tom.
Your outfit looks fine. I think you dressed yourself very well. I wanted to add.
Thanks, Lori.
You're welcome. I wanted to add, though, as I hear everybody talking and also reading some of the things that are coming up in the chat, because I've been mostly fortunate in my life that, you know, I've been accepting family, you know, blah, blah, blah. But sometimes in institutionalized settings, like I'm thinking doctor's offices, when I go with my wife to the doctor and have to explain who I am, you know, because I'm like sitting in the doctor's office with her and like, who is this woman that's sitting there? It can be sort of uncomfortable, and that you have to explain yourself in a way that other people might not have to do that. And so, and as far as like other communities that I'm involved with, just, I guess, even running for office, you know, it's a little bit different for me than probably some of the other people running for office. You know, so campaigning can be different too. So I think government, institutionalized places like, yeah, doctor's offices, hospitals, educational settings, I think all of those, you know, we have to be kind of mindful that you know, we are a broad spectrum of people and, you know, different experiences. And I think somebody put in the chat how it can be exhausting coming out all the time. It is, it can be exhausting. So just wanted to remark on that.
Yeah, so I know Lori alluded a little bit to societal, you know, I guess influence, whether it's media, pop culture. Some helps and some not so much. Can y'all comment to how media and pop culture has influenced your you specifically with your personal journey?
I mean, I think media and pop culture, they, you know, it plays a significant role in society in general. It can be very positive with representation and visibility. You know, you can use media to educate. Pop culture, it influences social norms and social values. So if you have positive, accurate LGBTQ plus representation, it can really influence social change. And then, you know, it can also, when things aren't accurate and when, you know, LGBTQ plus people are not portrayed in a positive light or in an accurate light, it can really damage society's view and our progress in the world. So I've seen it both ways, you know, depending on what I'm watching or what I'm seeing on social media. It's either mentally stimulating or mentally draining to witness what's happening out there in the world. But yeah, I think media and popular culture really play a key role in the movement itself.
I know. Oh, go ahead, Lori.
The organization GLAAD has some really interesting statistics that I was looking at that about the influence of the media, and it's something like 60%, I might be wrong on the number, like if people had witnessed in advertising gay couples or in other forms of the media, how it would change their opinion. So it's really, there's a very strong correlation of people that maybe don't know that they have as much exposure to LGBTQ plus people, and then start seeing it in commercials or, you know, in print ads or TV shows or whatever, and how that can help them adjust their opinion. So there's a real correlation there.
I have a bit of an interesting story. Like when I was younger, you know, as most of us didn't really know anyone that was gay or what the gay culture was about. And my first impression was from a movie, and it's a comedic movie, Police Academy. They tricked these guys into going into a gay bar called the Blue Oyster, and it ended up being a leather bar. So that was what my impression is what gay people were, where they walked around dressed in leather. And I thought that for years until I got to know other gay people. So that was my impression of what the gay community were all these gay men walking around with leather hats and leather vests. And I thought, I don't really like leather, so I must not be gay. So that was my influence on that was my influence on you know, media on me as a young man trying to like weed my way through, you know, my own discovery was the Blue Oyster from Police Academy.
Oh gosh, that's awesome. That's awesome. I know last summer was a huge celebration when Beyonce dropped the Renaissance album, and I went to 2 concerts because it was such a celebration for everyone. You know, I know it was more for the LGBT community, but it was just amazing. It was like a party all summer, and it was wonderful. So that's where pop culture came in, and visibility and all of that. So I thought that was a good concert and everything. So let's move on and talk about a little bit about empowerment. What are some of the major areas of concerns today, and what types of resources might be needed to combat the adversity? I know that a question came in from Carlos about some resources. What are some resources for careers that are LGBT open, or resources in our area? So if you can put that into your comment, that would be helpful. Thank you.
So I'll say that your first part of areas of concern, to me, I mean, I might be a little bit biased on this with what I do, but I think policy and laws are a huge concern right now. We're seeing a massive attack on our community from legislations across the country. Right now we have over 500 anti-LGBTQ bills in this country. I think more than that for trans bills. It's close to 600 anti-trans bills. And that's in 40 something states. And, that is probably right now, it's always top of mind for me because it affects my rights when I walk outside of my house and when I'm within my house, and my spouse's, ability to just go about their lives. So I think right now, to me, beyond it has to do with how the temperature is with everything in society, because when people who are filled with hate and misunderstanding, when they see that the law protects them to be that way, it empowers them to become a little bit more violent and problematic. So I would say that to me is one of the biggest concerns I have right now, with everything going on. When it comes to resources, there are a bunch in our area. We're very lucky to have resources in our area. We can probably create a list maybe for the group that signed up, and maybe we can send that out as a post read. But there's a few that I can think of offhand, but there's definitely resources for help in our community, probably not for everybody, but for a majority of people.
Thank you. Tom or Lori, anything to add?
There's an LGBT business council too, and I know somebody asked about businesses. Maybe it's coming up right now too. So they have monthly happy hours and get-togethers, different get-togethers and stuff. So if stores and businesses, small businesses and different kinds of services that people might need or want to use in the community, it's great to support other people that are businesses that are owned by the LGBT community as well.
But also the HRC has an equality index on corporations. So if you're looking for a more inclusive organization, they have that index where you can see where these companies meet different criteria. So if you're looking at specific companies you want to work for, I know that the Giant company usually ranks high on the equality index, local wise. And I also believe they also have a municipality index as well for that, if you want to work for government, where they are on that index as well.
Giant was just selling pride flags and at the various Giants around here, which I didn't know, and stickers and things like that. So, which I know Target had done before, and they've had some backlash to that, and some of them the Targets have stopped selling pride things. So, but Giant apparently did sell things this year.
They did, yeah.
Great.
Yeah, so we'll make a list and definitely get that out for resources because there's so many wonderful organizations around doing the work and providing the education and awareness, in particular to the LGBTQ plus community. So we'll make sure we disseminate that. All right. So for time's sake, I know there's a lot of chatter in the chat, and also if there's any other questions, please feel free to put in the Q&A or in the chat as well. But let's move on to talk about how can we all unite and support not just the community, but all of us that are part of the community, allies and everything. How can people within the community, combat the negativity that we are seeing, locally, countywide, statewide, national-wide? What can you help us here?
I have something to add about that. So I was just, the same article I was reading, the statistics, it also had differentiated between allies and so detached supporters. And I thought that was interesting because I think there are many detached supporters. And right now, for me anyway, we need allies. So, and I'll give you an example. In my local municipality around our flag raising, we had several people come to the commissioners meeting there speaking against flag raisings and just a lot of negativity. And we kind of knew it was going to happen. So we also put a call out, and we had an equal number or probably more people speaking up for why having a flag raising was important and how they liked being in a community that had visibility and celebrated diversity and things like that. And so I think people that are allies can speak up and speak out at times when people who are members of the LGBT community cannot or are afraid. And so, yeah, I think that if allies would be willing to wear t-shirts and speak up at meetings and do things like that, I show up for events and just make sure that, we know there's other people out there. I think that's really powerful.
There's the adage where you always hear visibility matters, and visibility matters. It really, really does. It really does. Not only does it, you used to hear, at least back in my day, and I don't want to date myself, but you would hear, I don't know a gay person. And that was kind of a joke because you're like, yeah, you really do. They're not out to you. That visibility matters because the more people get to know us as a community and get to know us as people, the more accepting people become. Because if you're breaking down the stereotypes and you're breaking down what people's misconceptions are of the gay community, like that is what helps us. And like Lori said, 100% are allies. And I know Lori gave a description of those allies. I call them drive-by supporters. Those are the ones that, like, you need help and they drive by and like, I support you. And then that's all you get from them. And I appreciate that, but you really need those allies, and those are the people that are essentially standing up for you and speaking on your behalf when you can't speak. So that visibility is really important, and it's really important in segments of our population where we're not really represented, like in law enforcement, in government, in situations like that, where we can have more of a voice. If it weren't for gay cops before me that came out, I wouldn't be in the position that I'm in. If it weren't for gay politicians before Lori and everyone else, she wouldn't be in the position that she's in. So that visibility is really, really important to our community, and for people to speak on our behalf.
Not just that though, it's also important because there's, just as we all like to talk to each other in our community, a lot of times people who just don't understand, they'll listen to our allies because they feel there's this sense of camaraderie there, and there's a connection there for them. And you know what, if that's true, then fine, take that opportunity and educate someone who doesn't know yet. Try to approach if you feel comfortable, and the levels of comfort are all over the place, but if you feel comfortable, approach your company or organization about having cultural competency training, because those types of trainings really open some people up to just the conversation piece. And it's, you know, there's a lot of services out there that can help. And I always say allies, the importance of allies to our community, to any community really, is really the difference between actual change that lasts and change that's short-lived. Because if we're the only ones speaking up for ourselves, we get drowned out. So it's very important to have our allies with us. And for within our community, right now, it's really hard for some people, for a lot of people, a lot more than it was even 5 years ago, because of just the climate we're in. And, you know, finding that sense of community, whether it's, you know, for those who don't feel that they can express themselves openly, visibly for others to see, find those spaces, whether it's virtually or in person, where you can find a sense of community, because it will be freeing, even if it's just for a couple of hours, and it really helps mentally.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And just to segue into, you know, the future, what are your hopes for the future of the LGBT plus movement in terms of unity and collective progress? How do we continue to create those safe spaces?
Yeah.
I think additional in representation in spaces where we're very underrepresented, in government, in policing, in, you know, different aspects, military, we're very really underrepresented, and maybe we don't have as much of a voice as we should. I teach criminal justice. I see one of my professor friends on here, along with Lori at Penn State. And I really, you know, drill into my students' heads, you know, policing and police departments and government really should reflect the people that they serve. If you have a police department that is in a city and it's 99% African American, and the police department is 100% Caucasian, you're not getting that, you're not representing the community in which you serve. So if you have a police department that deals with the LGBT community and you have no LGBTQ police officers, you're really not reflective of that community that you serve. So, you know, sign up for these jobs that, you know, maybe the gay community doesn't stereotypically have. Be a corrections officer, be a police officer, be an EMT, be a politician. You know, fill these positions and get our voice out there, and be a representative of our communities. Like that's the future I hope for.
I look at the upcoming election. I'm not going to get political here, but it's important that people support people that have your values, vote your values. And so whatever that might be, but the LGBTQ community is under attack. And if certain laws get passed, it'll make things worse for us. And so when the election day rolls around, it's important to vote for candidates that you know are going to support the same things that you and the people you love need in their lives.
I think we need to recognize that not everyone's going to feel that they can be a politician or a person that is going to go for a job and put themselves out there. And I think that every person can do something small that's significant. And one of those is, even if it's just staying strong and believing in the power of perseverance, and know that, you know, we have gone through so many different problems and issues and disappointments in the past. We're not going anywhere. We're here, you know, like there's not that we're not going to go away. And for those of us who feel that we can be visible and we can speak up and we can try to make a difference publicly, just know we're doing it with all of you behind us, because it takes all of us. So if you're not one of those people that feels like you're going to put yourself out there to the vast public, or you can't, that's okay too. You know, we need everybody, and we need to stay strong, because like Lori said, with voting, we need to make sure we vote our values. We make sure that our voices are heard anywhere we can possibly do it, no matter what that means.
Absolutely. Thank you all. Are there any questions? You know, I'd like to open the floor for any questions for our wonderful panelists here that has not been answered, or you want some clarity and everything. It's a lot of chatter in the chat here. Some good things. Great. Let's see, questions coming through.
Somebody,
I just have a, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, somebody put in the chat about family members and people significant to you. You know, when we talk about vote your values too, remind people that are close to you that they all should vote for, you know, if they really care about you, they should also be voting for people that will have your best interest in heart.
You know, that's a really important thing that they brought up, is the fact that your family and friends that's how you can influence change, is to just your sphere. You know, it doesn't have to be countywide, statewide, you know, countrywide. You're influencing plenty of people by just talking to your sphere, and that's awesome, you know.
There's a question here about talking points for conversations with allies or non-allies. I know with my nonprofit, we are very intentional in educating and providing awareness. And, you know, I know Mo has participated in conversations about, you know, LGBT plus community issues and stuff, because we need to educate and provide awareness to our communities. And like Mo says, you know, start within your family and friends as well. And that kind of trickles out. Same in the communities, and that kind of trickles out as well. So are there any talking points that you can share with Michael Gonzalez of conversations with allies or non-allies? And Joe shared, asked the question, why do you feel threatened by LGBTQ plus people?
I think my approach is I try to ensure that I'm very open to questions. Like I find a lot of times people are afraid to ask questions because to offend me. And I always tell people, like, don't be afraid. Like, if it's offensive, I'll tell you it's offensive, obviously, but don't be afraid to ask me questions, even if you think it might be offensive, like, because you got to get the answers in order to understand, right? If you have questions, ask the question. So I try to just be open and approachable about my sexual orientation, so that people ask the questions. And occasionally you get the ignorant question that you're like, really? But you know, that I've been able to, kind of help people and explain things that maybe they don't know, because I keep myself, approachable and open to ask those or answer those types of questions.
I do the same thing, and I always say, because they'll say, I might have this might be not the right thing to say, and I'll say, ask any honest question as long as you expect an honest answer, because I'm
Yeah.
going to tell you exactly how I feel.
That's right. And what's the saying? You got to feel uncomfortable to get comfortable, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah. So I think asking the questions is totally appropriate if they genuinely want to know the answer, right?
Right. That's
Right.
important.
Yeah.
You have to ask those questions in order to completely understand,
Mhm.
even just a little bit of what you're not really understanding in the moment. And it's, and again, this is where pop culture and social media and media in general really play a role in even just the questions people will ask, because they'll see something on TV and then they'll be like, oh, wait a minute, is that real? Or is this what's happening? Or is that what happened to you? And that's what starts the conversations up sometimes, is if they see something on the news, or if they see something on TV or in social media, and that can be a jumping off point. Oh, did you see that yesterday? Let's talk about that more. I can tell you that the visibility of media, the visibility of LGBTQ plus and trans folks in media has changed family members of mine. It's opened up doors to conversations with certain people that completely left our lives before. So it definitely it plays a huge role, and it's a good self-starter.
And I'm gonna ask one more question and then we'll start to wrap up as we have 5 minutes left. So this comes from an anonymous attendee. Do you ever feel like the LGBTQIA plus movement is moving faster than even you can keep up?
Oh yeah, totally. But that's great. It should. Vocabulary changes daily. I try to stay as up to date as possible, and then something will happen, and my 15-year-old kid will be like, that's not what you say. And I'm like, okay, what do I say then? But it's that's how it should be. It should be changing.
Absolutely. And, I'm in healthcare, so that is so important to me to understand my patients and be able to have a comprehensive look at what the needs are and provide that quality healthcare. So if you don't know, how can you provide that quality healthcare for that individual and make sure that they're living a fulfilling and healthy life? So I ask all the questions. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all for being vulnerable and being here to share your journey. Mo, Lori, and Tom, totally thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, and just being here and sharing so much more. Thank you to the participants, and thank you, Donna, so much for putting all of this together. Hopefully each of you have picked up something or learned something from this that you can take back to your communities as well. I know this has been recorded, so this will be shared on the Montgomery County, and thank you for allowing me to moderate such an important topic. And remember the theme of reflect, empower, and unite. We are stronger together. So Donna, if you want to close us out here.
Absolutely. Again, thank you all for joining us this afternoon. We appreciate you spending your time with us this past hour. Once again, I want to thank Mo, Lori, and Tom, as well as Dr. Darby for moderating this. It was a wonderful panel discussion, and I appreciate everything that you've shared and echo everything that Dr. Darby just said. I do want to send a special thank you to Lori Schreiber, who tirelessly worked to put this program together. Many times when we offer these, you know, I'm the person who's doing everything, but she stepped in, jumped in, and got the panelist. She was just wonderful. So Lori, I owe you a debt of gratitude, and thank you very much for your ongoing support, not only with this program, but always. So again, thank you to our guest, and thank you to all of our panelists. Everybody have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you.